Good evening, Molweni, and welcome to Amaqhawe Ethu, the show where we celebrate the men and women who carry the spirit of our nation's story. South Africa's heritage is a living thing built from pain, struggle, creativity, and triumph. Tonight, we meet a woman who has dedicated her life to preserving that stories. From the windy shores of Iqebeja to Students' Press Union and to the historical corridors of Robben Island, from community arts to national leadership, Palisa Kadi has shaped the spaces that protect who we are and what we stand for. She's a scholar, a communicator, and a public servant who bridges the governance, heritage, and identity. Joining me as we speak, we celebrate Ms. Palisa Kadi, a custodian of our nation's soul. Welcome to the show, Palisa.
Thank you very much, Fundi, for the invitation, and to Mpuma Kapa for holding the fort in media.
Amazing, amazing. We're going to start right at the beginning, and we're going to start with your life in Gqeberha. Tell us more about your early years. What has shaped Upalisa, the family life, the community that shaped your values, and how growing up, in Gqeberha influenced the woman you have become?
I grew up, I was born in Red Location. Mm-hmm. That's why it's even today the center of my study, my PhD study, taken care of by my grandparents from the maternal side. Yes. We are one of the few Basotho people living in the Eastern Cape. Born also, my mother Umakaba. Both my parents have been very hardworking, and I started schooling at Ivis Kamlana, where my mother was a teacher, at an age of 4. So I completed school very early and had to pursue scholarly work because I just had to continue with schooling, and that was the nature of that. Having a mother who's a teacher, and the father was so keen on education and reading. At home, there was always Evening Post and EP Herald to read. Even if you know or don't know English, you'll find your way, but you'll always find people you know, or my father's cricketing career and, reviews about matches of the United Cricket Club. My community was warm, Red Location, even if I still go there now. Hey, Sis Maria or Miss Maria, it's always been like that. But what kept me going throughout in terms of seeing the environment growing up was when we went to the schools, Model C schools were opened in 1991, then attended Pearson High School. I was telling my daughter that you had to write, I always call it it's not an entrance to me, it was a race test. Yeah. Because it was determined based on my race. And thank you to my Philip Nikiwe primary teachers who taught me English, that at least I could write an essay to get through to Pearson High School, where I matriculated.
Fantastic, fantastic. And now, it's important to us that actually you said that you were born in Red Location. What was it like growing up in a place marked by both beauty and the scars of the Group Areas Act?
Today I see it as a squalor, but each time when we were there, people were very proud. People of Red Location are proud people. They have a lot of pride. They take care of themselves from their attire to their homes.
Yes.
It's always smelling good. If it's not roasted cooks, fish, or anything. Yes. But people contained their lives in that space. But there were always those odd fights there and there, and also quite a number of shebeens. But there were a number of respectable homes, knowing that this is so-and-so's home. For instance, my grandfather, Tatu Philip, Ben Philip, was the president of Spring Rose Rugby Club. Wow. So we would often have visitors and so on. And also my grandmother was a church leader, Africa, Presbyterian. So there was always that. But now that I'm old, I see the contradictions. I worry about resilience of that sort that many people from Red Location became many somebodies in many spaces. We are one of those later generations, and they continue to live their lives. I always say it was not a place for human settlement. It was never supposed to be a place for more than 100 years, a century of that life, lack of services, until then the post-1994 government built the RDPs, which became also an issue of sorts and an issue for my study as well, in understanding and going back as a scholar to where it all began for me.
Interesting. And so who are the people who actually, or experiences that first sparked your sense of leadership and service?
All right, I'm going to start at crash. It's not normally, and it's not a norm. We all, many, youngsters even now went to a crash called Kwamema Bija. It's at the old dispensary at Red Location. Others will be taken by taxis right to that crash. So what she had, Umema Bija, was some form of association and alliances with colored schools and white schools. As a result, many others went quite early and were admitted to those schools. But all I remember, we were also taught English at that level, so early childhood development. Then one continued to live and looked into the spaces of growth, continuing to also look into the best forms of development, going to and attending the University of the Western Cape became a primary trigger for me to say that in between, I was part of the opening up of schools. They called it inclusion, they called it integration, they called it multiracial. But we all know it was not. It was transitional. The schools were not ready to accept black students. And that almost harmed me because I had this small, I have this stubbornness that comes and chickiness, but it's not out there until one does something to me. So I observed quite a lot of racial elements, and then that sparked my interest in law. So I was admitted at Rhodes University to study law, and the amounts that were asked for could not sustain. So I even left that and went directly to UWC, where my cousin told me, "Hi there, Epush, you can just go, you'll register with 600 Rand. At Rhodes, 10,000 was expected. And there were other children in my family that had to continue with their education. So it became steep. And then I said, cutting all losses, let me proceed. And then I arrived at UWC, demanding to be a law student with no application. And then Zizi Kodo was the president of the SRC. So he says to me, "Aye, say it next year, you'll be fine. Go for politics." And then I was just admitted to do a BA in political science. Much late in the year, I think it was late in March. But I got my acceptance, I received it, and I studied as a political science and history major, and went on to do economics and political science honors, and continued also with my postgrad and master's studies in history.
Interesting. Now, getting on your academic background, especially on the built environment and heritage knowledge, on your current PhD study, you are dealing with such a powerful theme which intersects between history, economics, and built environment, especially someone from Gqeberha. What inspired this kind of research?
It started with Red Location. I looked at my parents and said, how can what is deemed as a ghetto and a squalor produce many people, respectable people that we all know from this place? But also, each time when I had to take a 6:20 bus from New Brighton to Pearson High School, I was a bit offended. I'm not an early morning riser. I said, but why did we? Because I had the history of South End.
Yes.
And was told that it used, and then I would see there's South End, and then I would really not have to wake up, go to school
indeed.
so early. But I've always had major interest in structure and form, only that I did not do design studies.
Yes.
But one would look into property, and I do have an interest also in property businesses as well. So it continued, and every time when I'm driving down Beach Road and say, but why can't I live here? Why did we not live here? We're all South Africans. So that sparked my interest in terms of changing, but also looking at town, imagining our towns post-democracy, and having worked for tourism.
Yeah.
So I've seen a number of cities throughout the world. And I always say that Johannesburg can be New York at any given moment.
Yeah, true.
And I always see, our own Gqeberha, our own former Port Elizabeth as a town that we can be London if we like it.
Yes.
There's quite a lot of elements, resemblance in structure, but beyond that, the creative city that we live in, Gqeberha, forms part of that from as far as the 50s, having also looked into your jazz musicians. And what happened here, PE was never left, Gqeberha was never left out in the event of social schemes, productions, umojas, mahlatini.
Indeed.
Any form of good vibes, groove, and highest quality of creativity also called out for what was known as Port Elizabeth.
Wow. Now, what exactly were your main themes for your study, and how do you foresee them addressing some of the challenges of our country?
Yes, because my background is political science and history, and I am in a buildings and urban infrastructure. Chairperson was my supervisor, Professor Nolene Murray. So we're looking at critical architecture. I said, well, all that red zinc of red location, corrugated iron, it's critical infrastructure as well.
Wow.
And now, having had the museum also as part of that critical infrastructure, my key theme is to investigate the promise of planning post-apartheid. What did we put out there? What was put out there by the government? And what form of promises were set out? And that's, looking at apartheid infrastructure and post-apartheid infrastructure and saying the type of promises that were made, most of them also coming from the Freedom Charter. The issue of housing is there, the issue of equality. So I look into that. I also look at aspects of women and women in spaces, particularly infrastructure, houses that are owned by women, now that they can at least carry a title deed under their name. So I look into that, but I look into that with critique.
Yeah.
Because it is the work that I should do as a scholar.
Yeah.
I look into the measurements, I look into the type of housing that was provided and is still provided, and I say that who said that a black person deserves a 2-bedroom unit, less than 48 square meter, measurement, and that it can house a family and its livelihood. So those are some of the questions. And then I continue to ask then what happened to the promise.
Yeah, very important, And actually, as we move into the next segment, you've always been followed by South African. There's a theme within your career, and there is this, it's as if heritage always calls you in.
Yeah.
Because right from the beginning of your career, you became an education coordinator. at the Robben Island, you know.
Yes.
And please tell us about that point in your career and how it has shaped you, and what could you remember about it? Because I can just imagine that you were quite young at the time.
Very young, Fundi, spot on. After working and also studying at UWC, we, for instance, for political science, our first assignments, you'll be told you must go to Parliament, you must go to Robben Island, you must go to the courts.
Yeah.
And yeah, those were the three, and legislature.
Yeah.
Those were our first assignments, and we had quite a lot of radical professors at the time. But that continued, and then with the interest that I had, I kept on seeking further knowledge, because I discovered that the history I was taught in high school was misinformation.
Yeah.
That's what Lauren Keel calls it, misinformation of my education.
Yeah.
So with proceeding with that, I then followed a postgraduate studies, seeking into finding many truths that I was discovering only at university level. Then I was asked by one of my professors, Professor Wirtz, to go and assist and work with at that time, Robben Island had just been, I think, declared a World Heritage Site, opened. So I get there. My first landing using the ferry there was that this is not an island. This is not a tropical island.
Yeah.
This island, why is it fighting with my soul?
Yeah.
I when I jumped out, I was not
Interesting.
a happy person, but I'm normally a very seasick person as well. So our work, we proceeded. And then I started talking to people, in the boat, you become a community, you know each other even now. And then we started talking. Many people from Port Elizabeth were in Robben Island. Quite a number, and many interviews were held with them, oral history, and they are now at the Maibuye Center at the University of the Western Cape. Some of them are in form of books. So that touched me quite a lot. And then I proceeded with museum studies now, saying, what's this thing we were taught about Bushmans and Bushman diorama and abattoir and all that? All to learn it was stereotyping. Yeah. It was a movement of some sort on racial anthropology. And it continued to be as harmful in the psyche of many black and white people, that these are the beginnings, and it's where it all started, and they are like this, and they are not informed, and they know nothing except for the bone and arrow.
Wow. Yeah. Interesting. So now, how was your approach in ensuring that heritage education is meaningful to young South Africans visiting the Robben Island at that time?
We continued. Heritage was not a known discourse at the time. It was just history for many. They were trying to organize, scholars were trying to organize themselves to say there should be ways of memorialization, there should be ways of transforming these museums. Robben Island had to be an icon and a signature space where South Africans can learn and know what happened for many of those who gave us their lives and stayed there. So I think that was part of that, but as part of the staff that worked on the Robben Island training program, it was a postgraduate certification where you were taught now about the real history and the real how to make memorialization an action project. Indeed. Meaning that you go and do oral histories, you interview, and also even question, the tours that are taken there because they were told by the ex-prisoners. So you have interaction with them, and you cannot beat a man for his own story. They have had quite a lot to share, sentimental, And I was touched because many of people from New Brighton, in particular, Tatuina,
yes.
you know, were part of that. I also, you know, Uncle Solom Zimutse, and quite a number of them were there, and now they are continuing with Liberation Heritage Movement, the activism, you know, and they are still holding on, but we have not done enough.
Indeed, we'll get to that right at the end, actually. In what ways does Robben Island continue to teach us about reconciliation and identity, in your own opinion, actually?
I'm going to start from the smallest. In Robben Island, you can't even wash your own skin with the water that is there. So I even have this thing of using a shampoo, because I was taught that you can use a shampoo to wash your own skin. The hardness of that space, the hardness from the water, and then the rest is history. It can be a ghost town. It can be any form of a place with energies, but how the story, how the lives of people from Robben Island transpired into them from freedom fighters into leaders. And I remember there was a theme that was saying, ready to govern. It meant that they created that space to be an alternative form of schooling to those who wanted and opted for that choice, but also it became a community, and vision was kept that South Africa will become a place for many of us and all of us who live in it one day.
Interesting. And now on your career again, your career journey spans from public service and leadership, and from heads of arts and culture and acting director of arts and culture and libraries in the Nelson Mandela Bay municipality to director of rural tourism and niche markets, and later the director for the 2010 FIFA World Cup projects. And that's a remarkable range, you know. What drove your passion to save through arts, culture and tourism?
I always said I wanted to come back home because I went to Cape Town I was 17 when I went to university, and I missed home and I wanted to contribute. So my first long-term employment was here, because I also had that contract with myself that I will return home. That was the part, but it was at the time of the development of the idea of relocation as well. And I said, here's an opportunity. Here's time for change. But here's time for also my, you know, involvement in the space that made me. So hence my interest in space, reimagining cities, and also alternative forms of memorialization. So that brought me back home. Then we opened Red Location, I think it was 2003. It was a 2007, that time. And then it was quite a long struggle because of a number of contradictions, people wanting jobs, people wanting to see change. Ngapha Sweden is coming and extending a hand, wanting to be part of us. Hence the street is named Olive Palmer as well, in Red Location. And I went to Sweden as well to study more about museums of inclusion, museums of transformation, because of the nature of Swedish politics as well. So that became one of the highlights of my stay working at the municipality as the director of arts and culture later on. And that paved the way for me to proceed to the World Cup, a director for World Cup projects, which had elements of greening, elements of heritage, and elements of economic development.
That is a very interesting one. You know, I think let's just take it to the break. Our viewers at home can just have their tea right now. We have been sitting and conversing with Palesa Kadi. She was born in Gqeberha and was raised in Gqeberha and has moved to national stages, leading tourism, leading in government spaces, and also leading in heritage. And we are going to continue about her career journey and also her leadership within the heritage space. Join us after the break on Amaqhawe Ethu. Thank you. Welcome back as we continue our conversation with Ms. Balisa Kadi, now Mrs. Mgijima, a visionary in governance, communication, and heritage preservation. Now, we move back to her career. You currently serve as an executive for strategy, monitoring, and evaluation and stakeholder relations at the National Heritage Council. And you also sit in boards, in various boards, including the South African Broadcasting Corporation, which is the SABC. You've also previously served as a councillor at ICASA. That's an impressive footprint in governance, And what has guided your philosophy for leadership, let's say?
It's always been about advocacy, presence, and resilience. Remember, part of the promise was that South Africans are all ready to govern, even those who were never in government before. I took that tune very serious, especially for women, that the opportunities are there. It was time for many of us to also take, even if you're bulldozing, but when there's an opportunity, come rise up and say, I am ready, call on me.
Yes.
Because men say, they don't say, I can't. I have to fetch my children.
Yes.
I have to cook. No, they say I can. So that is the spirit, because remember, you are raised by a community, by a village.
Yeah.
So with all that you can't, because you are taking care of the other, then those around you can assist. So that's how I view life. That's how I view leadership. That's the balancing act.
Yeah.
I'm not the best of cooks or any form, but I know that at least people will not die under my care from hunger. But also having people around you and honoring and valuing them.
Yeah.
It makes things much better. That's part of leadership. Then you are able to proceed. Then you are able to proceed without any form of concern or anxiety.
Yeah.
So it is that time for women to persuade and pursue their lives in a manner of saying there's no other life.
Yeah, indeed.
And many people had to give up their dreams and hand over, and their lives were taken so that we can live like this.
Indeed.
Even better in the next years to come.
And now, how do you balance governance, accountability with the creative human side of heritage work?
For me, it's the same. You remain accountable when you know your story. And when you can tell the truth, even when no one is watching. That's the ethical part now.
Yeah,
Ethics in governance, but also the risk element, the risk of extinction, the risk of misinformation, and the risk of generations not knowing how we became the country and the nation that we are today.
Yeah.
So that is part of making sure that governance works, that we set up systems to take care of preservation, to take care of heritage promotion. So it's always been an ideal form. When I went to Washington, I think years back, I could not enter the Black African Museum. I went to London many times. I still cannot enter the British Museum because the queues are long. It's fully booked. I'm happy also when I'm around Cape Town, I can't get a ticket for Robben Island. That means many others
are going. Yeah.
Yes.
That's very important. And now, what lessons do you take from your time at ICASA, more about communication and integrity in leadership?
It was all about many concepts and topics. The cost of communication, the rollout of infrastructure to service the underserved, I'm married now to the Mgijima family in the rural areas of Etikeni, Esheshegu. When I'm there, I must move up and down, and everyone understands there's no network here. Sometimes this operator is not serving well, and that operator is not serving well. If you go to this side, you'll find more of the red operator, and then the other one will say the yellow operator or the blue operator
Yes.
feeds them well. So all of that, it should not be the case.
Yeah.
Under-servicing our communities, because the same child who is in grade 12 there deserves to get the data and be on schooling.
Yeah.
Yes.
And be able to access education through ICT.
Yes.
Interesting. And now, as a woman in governance, what progress have you seen, and what still needs to change?
Quite a lot needs to change. You mean in ICT or all platforms?
In all platforms, I mean, in terms of the boards that you have served in, you know, there was a time in South Africa that it was an anomaly for women to even lead boards and to sit in boards and to take important decisions. And now that we have women, is there more that still needs to be done to ensure that women fit into the space of governance, you know?
It's hand-holding, it's development, not because women can't or they are weak. It's because the opportunities, when they are there, they are given such that others feel that they cannot make it. Call upon a young fundi and say, come along. I'm attending a meeting, or listen to this committee in parliament. Our entity will be talking. That's when you can see the temperaments.
Yeah.
The tempo of governance now comes out there, because you are accountable to the public.
Yeah.
As much as you are not an MP or any form, but you remain accountable. That is the money of the public. That's the fiscus that you must account for. But also it's finding senior and older women coming up. We have Omam Toko Mpumlwana, who's been majestic, gracious, and overpouring and giving her all to many of us young women. She would call you after a meeting and say, why did you not speak? You looked, you know, she very observant. So you need that type of sponsor in those spaces. But beyond that, you need to hold each other accountable.
Indeed.
Yes, so that other generations can come. But it takes a lot of training. It takes a lot of resilience. It also, you must always be on the lookout and make sure what your script is principled.
Yeah.
Remain principled. And all these experience, I mean, I've been boards for 15 years now.
Yeah.
I've seen quite a lot of disjuncture when it comes to the element of principle. You know, it's not women, it's not men, it's everyone who is there. Others tell you that I'm not here for principle. And remember, you are much younger, and this person, you know, holds accolades and responsibilities. But we must watch against that, because we have a generation to protect that comes, and we also have our children's children
to protect,
to secure these spaces for.
And to secure their future.
In the future.
And ensure the future of the country is intact.
Definitely.
Indeed. Now the Heritage Council, your work focuses on strategy, the monitoring and evaluation, stakeholder engagement. You are actually right at the heart of connecting communities and institutions around heritage, you know. And why is heritage still such a crucial pillar of our nation building?
Because you go to France, you go to UK, you go to Washington, you go to New York, there's always a Lincoln statue, there's always something there's always a palace to go to, there's always a lot. But you go to our rural areas, for instance, or even the street of Njekisa, that we have a Tony Award winner in the name of the late Dr. Jonah, Winston Jonah. But there's no flagging, there's no remembrance and honoring of that, so that whoever is interested in that, you know, Sislash Mamnom Shenkonyeni, hey, Ikamanga was one of the most exciting elements which led to her, I'm sure, resting in peace, having been honored by her people, especially presidents in that. And that application was done by myself and Yoliswa Makas from here in Gqeberha. So it is women who must also remember other women. It was also women who must uphold the truth.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wow. Now, do you think South Africans truly value heritage beyond holidays and commemorations?
They don't. I am missing a point in this braai day scenario that we are having. It is somewhat, and I've seen that there's monetization in it, there's commercialization. In September 24, you'll find that boerewors is cheap. Meat is cheap because you must have this braai. But also you find that liquor is cheap. And there's specials and things. And braai to me can be anything else, because as Africans we have quite a number of activities that always makes us to be outside and bring a pot along.
Yeah.
So, but also it is one movement, if South Africa pursues it, will lead to a disjuncture of memorization and remembrance of who we are and how did we become the nation, the colorful, the forgiving nation that we are. So for me, it always worries and concerns me. Can Pride Day be any other odd day in someone's backyard? Not on the day where we want to say this is who we are. And with quite a number of, respectable clans. So it should not be also on those days that we pursue this. It must be on an everyday where you can to call your child, Makhatebe, bring me water.
Yes, yes.
So that they can carry the pride as well. Because if it's not done, I call my dad Mkwen, I call him Sutu, and he calls me Mamkwen. So it is the relation and affirmation that you get.
Yeah.
Who you are and where you come from.
Yes, to understand your ontology as a person.
Yes.
Interesting. And now, how can heritage be made more inclusive, especially for young people, now that you're saying that actually?
Yes, it starts at the home. In the home, the children must know. They must know their lineage. The Heritage Council is working with the Department of Education in aligning heritage as an education component for curriculum development. It's a huge project that is coming through. But also you find that in many universities abroad, history, for instance, is a major, even for students studying medicine. You can come through and have as an additional, and then you always get your credits to get to your degree. You know that you studied abroad. And that continues to be an interest, because if you don't know South African history, the first thing you are asked when you cross the borders, it's about the history of your people. If they don't ask you about Zulu Kingdom, they will ask you about Mshweshwe. They will always pursue a conversation, and you have no right to say, I don't know. Even if you are a child of this land, and having not been taught, it is your responsibility to pursue that. So it must be forced. It must be one of the elements in education that must be enforced is history, heritage, and maths.
Oh, wow. Interesting. And what role should local communities play, in preserving their own stories?
Yes, it's about archiving. I went to a conference at the University of Free State, and we were talking about how Africans are not archiving. When someone passes on, even if it's their trophies or birth certificates, they go there, they remain in their home until they disappear.
Yeah.
So what I've seen through my work as a historian, that each time I go to libraries, I'm able to find archives of certain families. I was able also to see, going through the National Archives, that I had an uncle who was a waiter in Cape Town, I think in 1912.
Wow.
You know, and also with my in-laws, I discovered that also they have royalty. It's written in the government documents that Umkhulu Tatomkhulu Umgijima was a chief in the area and district which the current family is. It's in government documents.
Wow.
So if it was not written there, they've always known, yes, but if it was not written there, then it becomes a problem, misinformation, and the demise. I always say it's the demise, it's the end of it all.
Yeah.
And we would have lived on this earth known and not shared or preserved.
Wow. You know, this show, which we're in right now, Amaqhawe Ethu, exists to celebrate the heroes and the heroines who have built our democracy and identity. Why do you believe celebrating these figures is so important to our national consciousness?
We have a duty to remember. We have a responsibility to make sure that their histories are known. And also, this is part of learning. So for us to pursue a movement or for a nation that is very well aware of its cause, of its people, let us pursue heritage, not as an alternative. Let heritage be a primary objective of many. No one wants to be erased in history.
Indeed.
So it becomes one of the opportunities that we have, that we should be making sure that we take it up and use all opportunities available. But innovation helps us these days. So let us proceed. I was also looking at, when I went to Jamaica, Kingston, I went to the Bob Marley Museum. The bullets where he was shot are still, the holes are still in there, in the home. And also his drama, I just forgot his name, is still there, still telling the story. I think he's the remaining band member.
Wow.
I think it's Bojo. I'll remember his name. So everyone goes there. You want to understand who made this reggae music a movement for the world to know. So it all also must remain a conscious decision that we all take, especially as young parents.
Yeah.
Let's not disregard the issue that our children cannot speak isiXhosa, Thara or Sisutu Thara. It is one's own fault.
Exactly.
Yes. It cannot be the child's fault. So let us proceed and make our land livable and teach, especially the young ones, to know that land is important. Language and their heritage is one form of enculturation that should not be looked at in a very downward and uncaring manner.
Indeed. So do you think we've done enough as a country to celebrate women and unsung community heroes?
No, and a big no. We have tried. We need to be deliberate, especially as the younger generation, because you cannot take for granted the freedoms that we have now, the liberties, the liberation that made us better people who can carry passports, who are not classified on race. So I still, in many of my studies, as a former chairperson of Geographical Names Council, I think, there was an issue about Gqeberha, but one had to sign off the name. Yes, it was during my turn. And I felt that, there are not a lot of spaces named after women. And it's us South Africans who are making those calls, because to change a place name, a river, or any form of feature, it must come from an over 18 South African person who will make the application. So there are no closures or limitations, but women's names are not forthcoming, even in that space. How many schools? How many primary schools are named after women? You know, and it continues even in sports. Very few. I was with Mama Rea, and you could see that she lived for football and invested and gave it her all. She's still pursuing it. And who is following her in that space of club ownership, for instance, club management? Yes, talking about people who will go for the long haul.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's so true. And now, if you had to name one person, a hero or a heroine, who inspires you deeply, who would that be and why?
It's my mother. It's her class. It's her demeanor. It's her frankness, her honesty, her resilience. Coming from red location, born in the 50s, and making her life livable as a professional teacher after 40 years. I'm even also, you know, in a journey of writing a book about her and her life, because we ought to know who birthed us and what happened in their lives. So she remains a pillar. You know, her stubbornness, I'm seeing elements of that in me now. In Kanizake, you will never go through, but she gets what she wants.
Wow. And just a bit of reflection, you know, you walked an extraordinary journey from scholar to heritage leader, from communicator to strategist. What continues to inspire your work?
It's because South Africa is free. We have more opportunities, and that our generation, or even a higher generation, they are now in governance, in government. This, then we have a responsibility to owe each other some elements of knowledge sharing and giving opportunities. I'm not demanding anything from anyone, and no one owes me anything. But I put the work. I go for the long haul. I put up my hand when called.
Indeed. And now, as we head towards the end, just for a minute, what legacy do you hope to leave for the next generation?
The one of remembering where we come from. We can never forget. It is painful to say apartheid was the past, because remnants of it are always with us. It's in the psyche, it's on many elements of our lives. So let the children know and understand and be taught why. And then they will also proceed to be decision makers and providing solutions for how going into the future. And thank you for that. It gives us then a great opportunity to all those Amaqhawe who gave their lives in particular, and the sacrifice.
And now the last question. If a young woman watching tonight dreams of leading in heritage or governance, what would you tell her?
Go for it, pursue, look for a sponsor, ask somebody. Don't go there alone. You need to learn as you go. It's a parallel process, and it requires an open mind. But be principled. Be principled and remain conscious of what you want to make out of it, and be very careful.
They're very careful, and I love it. I love it. You know, it's been an interesting one, Mam Kichima. I'm going to say Mam Kichima right now because I've been calling you Palesa, and that's another aspect of you that we need to recognize. And thank you so much for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for accepting our invitation. We're really honored to have you, and it's always a pleasure for us to host those from Amaqhawe who go out to the world to do these amazing things. It makes us proud. You represent our city very well. And now, as we end, from the voices, Palesa Gade reminds us that heritage is not about monuments. It's about the memory, the meaning, and the movement. Her story teaches us that leadership is an act of preservation, of truth, of culture, and humanity. Thank you, Palesa, for your service, your scholarship, and your unwavering belief that we are who we are, and we deserve to be remembered. And to you, our viewers, may you honor the heritage within your own lives and celebrate the heroes around you. I am Fundis Kweya, and this has been Amaqhawe Ethu. Good night, and keep our stories alive. Thank you.